What's up, guys? I'm Chad Barnes, and welcome to the channel. Here, it's all about real car talk, from simple fixes to smart driving tips and keeping your ride in top shape. If that sounds good to you, go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button and make sure you watch all the way through. There's a lot of good stuff coming. Let's get
Origins and technique. We will not tell here the history of all generations of the model, starting with Toyota Mark II from the late 60s. We will stop on the X110 proper. In this generation, Mark had no more twins Cresta and Chaser, but there was a strange relative Verossa, which was supposed to replace them, but was sold sluggishly. The X110 chassis is highly unified with older generations of Marks, as well as with the Crown S170. The car's body is steel, with longitudinally mounted engines and a classic layout. In addition to rear-wheel drive, all-wheel drive is also available. Suspensions are double wishbone at the front and multi-lever at the rear. Motors, only inline sixes from 2 to 2.5 litres, as simple with distributed injection, and direct with supercharging. Gearboxes, 4 and 5-speed hydromechanical automatic transmission and 5-speed mechanics. Bodies, classic sedan, not hardtop, like previous Marks, and station wagon. Timeline April 2000. The model is presented to the public at the Tokyo Motor Show and in company centers. October 2000. Start of sales. January 2002. The Blitz station wagon is introduced. November 2004. End of sales of sedan cars. June 2007. End of Blitz sales. Body. Exterior panels. The majority of cars looks quite cheerful, especially if you buy it in traditional habitats of Marks, in the South or Siberia. If you buy a St. Petersburg or Moscow car, the chances of a problem body are quite high. Rotten sills, front wings, windshield frame on the upper edge, rear arches, doors. All these places are well known to all former owners. There most often rust comes out. But it is unlikely that you will find a car for sale that looks very rotten. The reason is simple. Doors, hoods, and fenders in color, as well as nose cuts and cut-off quarters on a Mark II in the 110 body are still very inexpensive, making it relatively inexpensive to keep the car looking alive. The real condition of the bodywork can only be understood by assessing the sills, windshield frame, and interior cavities. Thresholds are often covered with putty and filled with anti-gravy. Sometimes they are welded by typical mark-off method, with a cut off from the edge of the rear arch. The shape of the original part is quite intricate. It is difficult to cut it properly. You would have to dismantle half of the body. They mainly rot from the inside. Dirt accumulates starting from the rear. The aft part of the sill reinforcement suffers a lot. It can simply be missing for half its height. The reason is weak metal and not the best choice of ventilation system, with plugs in the ends. In a competent owner, the threshold is pilled with antica, and corrosion will go slowly, but the car has long gone to the people. The bulk of Markovodov is not very well versed in the nuances of anti-corrosion treatment and successfully brings the car to rewelding. Corrosion of the upper seam of the windshield frame is treated by drilling off the roof panel, which is not very cheap, although the panels are still available. Front fenders at the junction with the headlight and bumper are fading, and the edge of the arch is rotting from inside. But the main problem with them is the rotting lugs of the fasteners. On understated cars, the fender is a consumable item. Sten's Marks owners are the main consumers of fenders, and many normal owners dislike them for that. It is not surprising. A normal owner has a set of fenders from a sawed-off car for about 3 to 5 years, and a stencer, a season or less. The doors are a little bit faded on the bottom edge, and the frame on top sometimes swells, but in general they hold up well, and it is not a problem to change the attachments. But the rear arches do not hold well, but with timely repainting everything will be normal. There are no internal centers of corrosion in well-maintained cars, but if the outside of the arch is rolled out, and the inside is damaged, the owner probably knew what he was going for. Marks often have plastic dodgers, both original and replicas. Alas, even factory plastics are fixed so poorly, and kolhozny, and even worse. Naturally, it is impossible to determine the condition of the sills without removing them, which complicates diagnostics. Often everything is bad under the plastic. Well, and, certainly, it is necessary to understand that almost all Marks are beaten. The drive is rear-wheel drive, motors are powerful, ESP is often faulty, for example, as a result of not too successful engine replacement. and body elements are inexpensive. In the risk zone, unfortunately, even low-power modifications with a 2-liter motor. But there is good news. Restoration after an accident is not always done badly. As many people know, marks can be constructors and sawed off. Being well aware of the Far Eastern traditions of importation, inspectors at the MREO know where to look and how to check. We will not go into details and the difference between different categories of illegally imported cars. Just know that in the best case you will be registered through the court, and in the worst case, a criminal case. Therefore, it is better not only to scrutinize the points, but also to agree on the transfer of money to the seller after the car has been inspected by the traffic police. From below, apart from the already mentioned sills, there are usually no big problems. The trouble with a rotted inner arch of the body concerns mainly cars of standards or very unattended copies, and by and large it is not so expensive to treat. Iron costs pennies, and it doesn't cost much to weld it up. In general, the body underneath is usually quite alive, with corrosion only at the seams, especially in the rear, at the subframe. Mounts, with corrosion of the rear subframe itself and poorly ventilated areas in front of the rear axle and in the bumpers. The TV set, the front body panel, which most often suffers in minor accidents. At the same time, you can often find damage at the joint between the inner front wheel arch and the engine compartment mudguard. The seam is relatively easy to depressurize and slowly but surely rots. Depressurization of the seam of the upper reinforcing spar at the junction with the front roof pillar thing. Unpleasant, but often dispensed with visible corrosion. You just need to reposition the sealant. But it is better to clean and do not forget to fill the internal cavities with anticorrosive. Surface corrosion of suspension cups in the front and shock absorber support in the rear is also not uncommon, but they are hardly a threat to the integrity of the body. Still, the body is well thought out. Except for sills, there are no elements accumulating dirt and rotting quickly. It is painted well, too. Chipping and corrosion on the edges are rare. Rot usually appears from joints and seams. Body equipment, we can't say that the Mark II is absolutely perfect. Its headlights get sandblasted very well, because the plastic is quite soft, and bumper mounts are not eternal, and breakable brackets. Under the headlights have to be changed sometimes, and moldings delaminate with time. But all these parts are elementary to change. There are a lot of them in any form and condition. Owners often change live for live simply because they wanted to freshen up the appearance, picked up elements of Dodges of a new series, etc. Detail original price non-original price of non-original 2 body front headlight 26 247 sat 7 770 windshield, not available KMK. 5 273 XYG 7 715 front wing 24 306 not available front bumper 37 241 sat 12 884 hood 24 103 not available TYG 7 609 886 interior. Despite its age, the saloons hold up well thanks to the high quality of materials, both plastic, leather, and cloth. Perfectionists will name a lot of elements that have to be replaced over time. For example, the glass of the dashboard, a block of levers of opening of the trunk and fuel filler neck, buttons of windows, covers. On sills, buttons of climate control and covers of the central console around the lever of automatic transmission. Most people usually do not notice such trifles, though if you want, as it was already mentioned, you can find literally everything on the mark and inexpensively. The champions in terms of service life are dark fabric interiors. Light-colored leather ones look rich, but lose out in terms of wear resistance. After 15 to 20 years, such salon usually requires high-quality dry cleaning, with washing of door card coverings, all covers and crevices, and cleaning, ironing, and painting of seats. The leather itself is rough and strong, but the paint peels off in narrow strips in places of bends, exposing a darker base, crumbles on loaded places. In a fit of fanaticism, it is possible to buy velour complete interior from the top IRV configuration, for a variant in good condition. Now they ask about €400. I would like to say that everything is very reliable, but the resource of many elements is finite. For example, electric drives of a driver's seat wear out. The Japanese like very much the option comfortable entrance, but they do not want to put powerful drives. Power window drives can squeak, or even fail. Or, for example, the actuators of climate control shutters wear out in the same way as on European cars. However, this is where the other extreme in the maintenance of Japanese cars often comes out. They may try to replace the entire heater, just to avoid removing the penny drives. with disassembly of the cabin, removal of the crosstube, etc. It is more difficult to buy the damper actuators separately than the complete heater unit. Another argument in favor of large-scale intervention will be contamination of the heater radiator. It is often clogged and does not work well. In this case, washing is possible, but it is long. The service more often changes to a new or used. By the way, if they change only the radiator block, without tubes, the tubes are welded in place by the simplest means, for example, a screwdriver and a hammer. As you realize, this is not very reliable. As well as, say, a completely replaced door, just to avoid removing the glass, with wire connections on twists. Electrics, if there were no large-scale updates, do not cause serious problems. But since the cars, as it was already said, are usually repaired by large block implementations, there are enough problems. For example, incorrectly selected braid when installing onboard multimedia system multivision can lead to the collapse of the climate, dashboard, and not only. Even an out-of-the-box stereo can cause problems. The model connoisseurs know about the legendary 120 ohm resistor, which should be changed sometimes, because it burns out. Climate control unit comes in several versions. For some reason the one with swing function, changing direction of blowing, is valued. According to legend, it has more reliable buttons and less glitches. In general, if the serviceman's hands were straight enough, and the selection of parts from the soaring is correct, there should be no big problems. Well, if they fixed it by a tricky method, the result is logical. So far, it turns out that 15 to 20 years old marks, if they were imported legally, were not badly beaten or bumped, may well still be preserved. The body is potentially strong, the interior keeps the brand for hundreds of thousands of kilometers, the electrics are relatively simple. In the next installment we'll be looking at the chassis, the transmission, and the engines. In conclusion, the Toyota Mark II X110 stands as a testament to a bygone era of automotive excellence, even when faced with challenges like rotten sills and the inevitable wear of time. For those willing to invest a little effort, this champion saloon can be transformed from a neglected gem into a beloved classic. With its unique character and potential for restoration, the Mark II X110 offers enthusiasts an opportunity to own a piece of history for just a few pennies. Whether you're a seasoned collector or a newcomer to the world of classic cars, this model is certainly worth considering. Thank you for watching, and we hope you found this exploration of the Toyota Mark II X110 insightful.